My name is Christina Delgado. I am with the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, the Mediation Program. Today's topic is, when should I request mediation? Next slide, please. At the end of the presentation, there is going to be a Q&A session, and we will answer any questions that you may have. You would also have the opportunity to complete a short survey about today's webinar. We would really appreciate it if you can please complete that survey, as it does help us to better your experience in future webinars. Next slide, please. If you have any questions that were not answered during this webinar, please feel free to contact us by phone or by visiting our website. This webinar will be recorded and will be available on our webpage, where you could also find additional events and services we offer. This screen will also be available towards the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. Please be aware that your microphone will not work during the session. All questions will be asked through our WebEx chat box, which is located on your lower right-hand side of the screen. Once again, any questions will be answered at the conclusion of this webinar. I would now like to introduce you to your presenter, Carlos Hidalgo. Carlos?
Thank you, Christina, for that lovely introduction. Greatly appreciate it. I want to thank everyone in attendance right now on this afternoon and this lunch hour. I greatly appreciate the time that you've taken and the opportunity to sit with us here. So go ahead and grab that nice ice cold coffee on this nice hot day. Go ahead and grab that water, ice chilled, real great, or that panini or that sandwich that you're ready to go ahead and have right now this afternoon, and get some information with regards to as far as when should I request mediation. Once again, my name is Carlos Hidalgo. I'm a mediator with the Los Angeles County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs Office. And I'm here to present to you sometimes some questions. When should I request mediation? So I'll go ahead and answer it for you. So take a seat, enjoy the ride. Next slide, please. So for those of you who have never attended the webinar, I would like to also let you know that you could also see our previous webinars that we've had on our YouTube channel. That right there is available for you as well. After this is going to be uploaded there and added on for more information. Now, for those people who don't know what mediation is, awesome, great to know that you are very informed on that. For those who are joining this session for the first time, I'm just going to give you a brief overview as far as what mediation is and a little quick summary. So mediation is just a dialogue that right now I'm having with you. Simple as one-on-one, as you're there and I'm here. If you were here with me, I would have it across the table, across right here, right next to me. But it's a simple conversation with the assistance of a third-party neutral person, that being me. I would be neutral to both sides in this instance, having that conversation, okay? But the goal for this mediation, or for mediation in general, is for both parties to come to a resolution in a dispute that each side has with one another. And usually how we get to that part of having a dispute is because communication is broken at that time. Because of emotions just being flared up, and people sometimes say, you know, you're not listening to me, you're not hearing me, that's not what I said, you're not understanding me. Well, it's because sometimes, you know, the emotions are involved in it, and that's okay. Well, in the mediation process, that's what we're here for, is to kind of remove a little bit of the process of the feelings, and let's just get to the facts, most of it, but majority of it is just trying to have that conversation. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Now, with the factor of our services providing for mediation, our mediation program services are offered to any individuals or businesses that are currently residing in the Los Angeles County. We do ask that at least one party, one side, it could be either one of, doesn't matter what side, but as long as one side resides in the LA County, we're more than welcome to go ahead and take that mediation request. Another example that we cannot, let's just say, would be like if you're in Chicago, you reside in Chicago, and the other party is in Seattle. Unfortunately, we can't do that mediation request because neither party is here in Los Angeles County. However, another one could be, say, let's say you live in LA County and you have to go on an overseas trip. That's okay. That's fine. Yes, you can do that. If you're in overseas but you still have a residence here in LA, that's fine. As long as, again, one party is here in LA County residing, we could go ahead and do that mediation matter, and you can still have mediation through our services. Next slide, please. So let's go to the big old question of saying as far as what's the difference between a complaint and a mediation, okay? So now, mediation is a peaceful, friendly approach of understanding. Again, the key word is understanding one another. It's that you're wanting to go ahead and hear again the other side, and to both sides actually hear one another. That's the biggest word, hear one another. Listen to me. It's kind of like saying, listen to me. That's not what I'm saying. So this is what I'm saying. So you want to hear that, but in a friendly approach, in a friendly manner. And the biggest thing about mediation is that you have control of the matter. You have control of this outcome. Both sides have control of this matter. And each side will kind of want to dictate that outcome, but eventually both parties are going to dictate that outcome. And the processes with mediation is not necessarily having to find fault or an investigation side of that. It's not, I want his license suspended or her license suspended. It's not of that matter. That's not what mediation is for. Mediation is more sometimes even what I call it of, there's other processes for those situations of grievances in that instance to address your dispute. Because sometimes you may have already brought it up, and sometimes it could be in contracts where they say you have to go through mediation because of this dispute, because it's a process that you have to go through. So at times there's other agencies, businesses, or to say that there's a grievance a process, such as an appeals in that instance there. So I'm going to compare again to say that mediation is not part of that process, but more that process will be in a separate level to say of that. Okay. In the instance, if let's say you have a dispute with someone and you're wanting to know, like, what are your rights and your responsibilities, then necessarily that doesn't say that that's what part of mediation is. It's more you can find that information and then you go into mediation if you want to try to then resolve that dispute with one another. Okay. So the fact of mediation being is that I would be involved in there, and so are my other coworkers will be involved in this matter, with to say that we are third party neutral persons to that say, versus in a complaint is more about actual fact, finding fault, fact, as far as investigations, suspensions, licenses. In that instance, there, that's what is there for. What the difference to say is that mediation is not a complaint. The reason being I say this is because at times we have gotten phone calls. We will get phone calls to the phone number that was listed earlier, and it's to say, I want to file a complaint or I want to do a mediation request. Well, that's what I'm trying to define again. The differentiation is to say a mediation request is not a complaint, because the complaint process has a different avenue that can go, but primarily complaints have to deal with investigations, fact finding, and truth seekers. And that's what mediation is not. Mediation is more, again, you want to resolve this dispute amongst yourselves because you have the control, because there's not a formal process, like there's not a judge, and then also just to make sure it's not arbitration either. The differentiation between an arbitrator and a mediator are totally two separate things. An arbitrator will do some fact finding and do other steps to resolve that dispute, versus in mediation, it's more of you and the other side are in control of that matter. Okay, so I wanted to reiterate again the difference between mediation and complaint. The difference of that is that mediation is not a complaint. Next slide, please. So the mediation services that we do not perform are criminal, active restraining orders, family law. We're not family law mediators. We don't deal with any active restraining orders at all, and we don't do any criminal proceedings in that instance. That is the services, mediation services, that we do not provide. Next slide, please. So this right here is the common types of mediation requests that we do get in our office, as far as, security deposits, neighbor to neighbor, lawsuits, noise complaints, fences, trees, disputes, and I'm going to go on more in depth in general. So next slide, please. So landlord tenant, most common mediation requests with landlord tenants have to deal with security deposits. The common ones always security deposits, and usually it's to say, I was expecting this amount, but I didn't get and I got this amount, or I didn't get my security deposit at all. Okay. So when I mentioned earlier, it was about the rights and responsibilities. That would be something separate if you wanted to know the rights and responsibilities, and if you want to take action with regards to the landlord, if you want a different outcome. Here in this outcome with a mediation request is to you wanting to communicate with the landlord himself or herself, to say, or the vice versa. Maybe you are the landlord and you want to work something out with your tenant. It can go either way, but it's always the fact that saying both sides want to come to an agreement, want to resolve this dispute, communicate with one another. The key word is we want to communicate. Always is communicate. Sometimes people say, like what I've always said before, it's not what I said. Generally, you didn't hear me. That wasn't my intentions at that moment. And so now we're here in a mediation session, and then we can say, this is what I was really trying to say. This is what I was really trying to explain. Or that is to say, the factor of the security deposit, with the walls, with the cleaning, you told me everything was fine, and all of a sudden I get this outcome. So it's more to say, let's clarify that. We want to clarify the matter, the dispute at hand. And that's what this mediation request is all about. And then also in the instance, it could also be with maintenance requests. Sometimes you've requested, hey, you know what, Bill, my sink is leaking. Can you come and fix it for me, please? Okay, sure, no problem, Joe. I'll go ahead and I'll do that on this date at this time because this I'm available. So it's always a communication to say, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. And the key word is saying I'm gonna do it is because it's also willingness, the willingness to go ahead and wanting to resolve this dispute. It's like, if there's no will, there's no way. So in this instance, there's gonna be some type of a will to wanting to resolve this, to say, okay, you know what, I'll go ahead and I'll fix that sink on this day. Or to say, you know what, I couldn't fix the sink on that day because I had these issues, these things going on this day, and I couldn't come. So I'm sorry, Joe. I told you Tuesday, I didn't come on Tuesday, and I apologize. See, that's the part of the communication process versus to say, you said you were going to do it, and then nothing happened on that Tuesday. Then you're like, hey, you said you were going to come on Tuesday, and you didn't come on Tuesday, but you never told me you were going to come on Tuesday. So that's where the dispute sometimes happens because there is no communication. So now mediation is utilized for that purpose, is to communicate maybe what happened on that day. Maybe the whole story hasn't been told that day. There's always an explanation for that. And so mediation requests are utilized in that instance for that. Next slide, please. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, a wonderful day in the neighborhood. Could you be my, would you be my mediator? So in this instance here, neighbor to neighbor, we always have these disputes between noise complaints. As you can see here in my little picture, we have a little young lady in the middle. It could be your scenario right there. You live in a complex that's over 15, 20 units, maybe 40 units, and you got everybody to your left, to your right, to the bottom, up, down, left, right. But you always have some situation going on. You got the kids upstairs running around because the floors are very sensitive. The ceilings are, you could hear everything, every single footstep that's, walking around. You hear them always going around like, oh, or sometimes you may work overnight, you might work graveyard, and you know what? Our lifestyles are not the same. So in that instance, we were trying to go ahead and, resolve that dispute because of the fact that, everybody else has a different lifestyle. It may not be yours, but maybe you want to try to resolve that dispute because you say, hey, neighbor, hanging on the walls, like, no, cut it out. As they say, sometimes, again, emotions are flared up because you're upset, you're mad. Well, let's try this method. Let's try mediation. Let's go ahead and have this conversation. Hey, neighbor, Bob, look, hey, you know what? I work overnight. I'm sorry. You know what? Can you please cut it down? Maybe we could work a schedule out. Maybe we can have a certain time where we can have some noises at this level and this other level, and all, raise up the level at this time. It's always the negotiation, the part of going back and forth of saying, this is what I'll do. This is what you'll do. Let's work this out because we all want to live peacefully. And that's the biggest thing when I said, again, it's a peaceful, friendly approach, an understanding, and taking control of this matter. So the mediation requests that we have commonly are neighbor to neighbor because of these matters. Another one can be, of course, crossing property lines. Now, excuse me. With crossing property lines, again, us as mediators, it's for us to have that conversation between, you and the other neighbor to say, what can we do about this? All these leaves falling down on my side. Okay, well, let's work that out. For me, I'm always one trying to avoid any issues. So I even told my gardener, like, hey, cut that orange tree down in half. I don't want none of my oranges going over to the next door neighbor. Why? Because I'm just a preventative guy. That's just the type of guy that I am. But what sometimes people say is, can those solutions work? If you cut down the branches of some trees, does that mean that the tree got killed? Probably not. We don't know. But, that's something that we can work out. But eventually it's, again, maybe we can tie the tree down, maybe shift it to the right, maybe shift it to the left. That way it can just bring peace, because everybody just wants to live in peace, especially in the neighborhood, wherever you own. If you own a home, you have your neighbors to the left, to the right. Again, property boundary lines. That's what we all want to work. If not, then what's going to happen is the leaves are going to come over here, and then, someone's going to come over here, scoop them up and throw them on over. Oh yeah, your trees are all here. You didn't pick up all this, and you start all that argument. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do, is we're going to have a peaceful conversation with one another. Let's sit down, let's talk about it, and propose solutions. How can we live together without a dispute? Okay. Next slide, please. Lawsuits. With regards to lawsuits and small claims, Stanley Mosque, I just wanted you to know, Stanley Mosque, you may be like, what's he talking about? What's Stanley Mosque? So Stanley Mosque is a downtown courthouse located right there on Hill and First, right across from the cathedral, 2 blocks over from City Hall. Just want to let you know, got a little broad area. Grand Park, if you've never been down there, right across the street from Disney Hall. See, I gave you some good major landmarks right now, so now you know where I'm like, that's where he's talking about. Yeah, so small claims, we'll go ahead and, we'll take those mediation requests right there and dealing with that, because usually what tends to happen is judges like to tell, the plaintiff and the defendant to go ahead and, try to resolve the dispute. Again, it's giving the control back to you, so you and the other side can resolve that dispute, wanting to compromise. That way you and the other side can say, yes, you know what, Your Honor, we have an agreement. Here you go. And we're done. Simple as that. That's what mediation is there for. It's for you to just agree on something, and also be able to live with that decision. That's always the biggest thing, is to live with that decision. Okay. Now, with regards to civil limited, as far as with regards, that is it's our lawsuits normally that particularly are from $10,000 to $25,000 in there, and usually an attorney is involved with regards to that matter. So before you submit a mediation request, please consult with your attorney in with regards to filing that request with us. And if he says yes, okay, cool. So overall, with lawsuits, you can submit a mediation request before mediation, after mediation, or during during the lawsuit. Sorry, mediation can be submitted before a lawsuit, during a lawsuit, or after a lawsuit. There's nothing saying that you can't submit a mediation request at any time. You can submit it at any time you want with our office regarding this, because you want to, again, resolve probably something in there, come to an agreement in regards to that. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, with regards to the mediation process, when you submit your requests, you can submit your requests via online on our website or through the paper format. In that instance, if you don't have the capabilities for online capability or computer, you're always more than welcome to call our office and request a mediation form be mailed out to you. Okay. With that being said, the fact of being mailed, or even the online part, okay, the components that we need in order for you to submit one to us and the process incomplete is to complete the process, we will need names and addresses, okay, phone numbers, and if possible, an email. Okay. If we're going to communicate with the parties, this is what we ask of you, is just to please provide that information. as well as from the individuals that you want us to invite or the businesses that you want us to invite. The name, the address, phone number, and email address is what we are asking for you to provide. So that way, when we send that out, just like you see in the image right here, is to actually send the invitation for them to participate in mediation. Again, the key word is the invitation packet. Okay, it's not a forced, it's not obligated for anyone to participate in mediation. It's a voluntary process, but it's still a process that we still go by, and we do that. Now, to get in more depth with regards to the mediation processes, go back to our YouTube channel. We actually have a video on that to say more in depth what it takes after you get that invitation packet, what type of mediation methods and so forth. So check that out. Go visit our YouTube channel. You'll get more information on there. There's in English and in Spanish for those if you want some more information on how the actual mediation process works right after the invitation packet is sent on out. Okay. So once again, key things in here is addresses, phone numbers, because this is who we're going to contact. This is who we're going to call and say, hey, Bob over here wants to mediate. Now, can we ask that, or not ask, the information is always confidential. So I just want to make sure that that's the other component, that you have a peace of mind that the information is confidential when we do send out the invitation request. The only thing that does get mentioned is just the name of the party. You cannot be anonymous in that instance there. You do have to provide your name as to say who is asking for mediation, okay? But everything else, as far as your information, that is not disclosed to the other side, okay? We just say, Bob Smith would like to request mediation with Jane Doe, and to the address mailed out to this here, okay? So we wanted to reiterate that factor to say the invitation packet will be mailed out. Next slide, please. And at this point right now, I would like to thank all of you again for attending this seminar here in this afternoon with all the information that I provided for you. And I thank you, and I'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to Christina.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. Once again, we want to let you know that if you want any more information regarding this topic or any other services we offer, please visit our website at dcba.lacounty.gov. We'll post that up shortly. We have now entered our Q&A session. Once again, you can locate that chat box on your bottom right-hand side of your screen.
And I wanted to correct the information. I apologize, is to say that civil limited is up to $25,000. Just to reiterate, correct my information. I apologize. Excuse me.
Okay, we'll wait a few minutes. If anybody has any questions. If you could go to the next slide, just to let the attendees see the information, just in case they want to write down the website or phone number. Carlos, we do have a question. Can I submit a request with 2 parties?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. You can submit a request to 2 parties. Just we would have to know, who they are, and of course, with that information, as far as if they live together, if they don't live together, so that would also help out to clarify, because if both individuals live separately, but the dispute is amongst others. And I say, to an example, me and you, Christina, right? Someone has a dispute with me and you, but I don't live with you, but we know each other. Yeah, they can still submit the request. And the same thing goes as far as the information, the request. It's to one, if they submit the request on the first request that they submitted, reference that number on the second request. That way, when there is a mediator assigned, they can go ahead and put that case together. But an invitation is always still going to be sent to each party. That's always the key word is the invitation will be sent to each party no matter what. And the same thing goes as far as on the process. But the answer to that question is, can you submit a request? Yes, you can submit a request, and it would go to each party. Thank you for that question, Christine. It's a great question. Awesome.
There is another question.
Mhm.
Is there a limit on the amount of repayment of deferred rent paid during the eviction memorandum?
For what maybe clarifying on that is with our rent stabilization unit. Anything with regards to that, it would go to our rent stabilization unit. So the number on the screen is, you can still go, actually, no, let me get you the right phone number for the rent stabilization unit. That question is more articulate. Oh, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that, Tenny. So it is provided on there. And that question will go towards that unit. The reason I say that is because, again, mediation is between an agreement between both sides. That's what you both sides want to agree on. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So the number to that right there, and I think maybe the answer is there. Thank you, Tenny. Appreciate that. And if the font is too small, I'll go ahead and I'll say out that number out loud. So if you're a tenant or a property owner and have any questions regarding that, you're more than welcome to contact our rent resolution counselors at 833-223-7368, or you can email rent@dcba.lacounty.gov. Or as well, you could also visit our website, which is visit rent.lacounty.gov for any additional information.
Okay. And we do have another question. What if the person requesting mediation does not have the contact information of the other party?
If the other side does not have the contact information for the other party, then unfortunately we cannot proceed with mediation, because we will need to have that information. I mean, we would have to, we would need that information to process the actual invitation. So at that point, without a phone number, without any email address or mailing address, we cannot proceed with mediation. So we ask that the individual or the business that is wanting or seeking mediation and wants to seek it with another individual or another business, we ask that information be provided in your mediation request.
Okay, thank you for that question.
You're welcome, Christina. Any other questions out there?
Not right now.
Okay. I know it usually takes a moment, because usually when it's typing up the question, I know we don't want to rush them at that time. So I know I get it, because we're like, no, I don't have enough time to type up my question. So I get it. That's they might have a more in-depth question, so it's okay. Understandable.
Okay, well, give you another minute. If you have any other questions, go ahead and write them in the chat. Once again, if you have any questions that will not be that were not answered during the session, please visit our website at dcba.lacounty.gov, and specifically for this program /mediation. Okay, it looks like we have a question coming in.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna go with The Price is Right. Come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right. I'm gonna be like, you're the next contestant with a great question.
As a small business, I've been requesting mediation with our property owner without a response. What would you recommend?
Can you repeat that question one more time for me, please, Christina?
As a small business, I've been
Uh-huh.
requesting mediation with our property owner without a response. What would you recommend?
As far as recommendation mediators, we cannot recommend um, the outcome of that, or more in general, because we're neutral. So the only thing that we can inform you is to contact our consumer counselors for your options outside of mediation. Okay, because mediation is a voluntary process. So again, it's everyone's right to either wanting to participate or not participate. They have, each side has that right in mediation. It's a voluntary process. So if the other side chooses not to participate, that's their right, but you're more than welcome to talk to our consumer counselors for any other options outside of mediation.
Okay. We do have another question. Can we get any information on how to proceed from October on if the rent relief program has been approved, has approved funds, but has not yet sent them out?
Okay. So the question is, can we get any information on how to proceed from October and on if the rent relief program has approved funds? Yeah, so that information is again towards the rent stabilization unit at the phone number of 833-223-7368. Okay, so that is more in a depth question, but the difference again with mediation will be is if you're trying to come into an agreement or want to come to an agreement with you and your landlord, then you can submit that mediation request to our office. But again, that's if both parties want to come to an agreement. There's a difference. Again, if you're looking for an enforcement, if you're looking for an investigation, finding at fault, any information of that, anything into that category, that will not necessarily be an actual mediation request. That would be more of a different process in that. More with your rights and your responsibilities. That's going to deal with our consumer counselors, and that is where you would go to with that. But if you and your landlord want to work out an agreement, then yes, mediation would be for that. Okay, so that's why I make sure the difference is if you have a dispute with your landlord and you want to come to an agreement with your landlord, you're more than welcome to submit that mediation request because you're looking to work with your landlord. If you're looking to find for your landlord being unfair, being unreasonable,
Okay, I'm sorry. It looks like he got cut off. Just one moment, please. Okay, Carlos, could you hear me? Carlos, could you hear me?
back. Can you hear me?
Yes, you got cut off.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I lost a portion of the signal, and I apologize about that. My Wi-Fi cut off on that. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Um, but yeah, so once again, I don't know if there was did my answer get cut off at the very end, or?
Yes, your answer did get cut off at the end, but I think you're wrapping it up, that question, but if you want to repeat the end, just to make sure.
Yeah, so what I was talking about, real quick, was just to say again, if you're looking for finding fault or anything of that matter between you and your landlord, being rights and being violated in that instance, or your responsibilities, anything of that nature, wanting to know more in depth of that, then you would need to contact our consumer counselors regarding that. Again, that's be a different process towards a complaint and a mediation request. Again, mediation is because you want to resolve this dispute peaceful, calmly, talking to one another, and wanting to see how both you and the landlord can continue moving forward. And that's always the process about mediation is, yes, you have a dispute, now let's move forward. How can we move forward? That's the whole purpose of mediation is, how can both sides move forward with this situation? Okay, and the key word in there is willing. If both parties are willing to do it, then you're going to be able to make it happen. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions on that?
No, we'll go ahead and give them another minute just in case they're typing. Okay, so then once again, we do want to thank you all for joining us. If there's any questions that were not answered during the session, please visit our website, or also you could go ahead and give us a call. Our website is dcba.lacounty.gov for this specific program /mediation.
So I want to thank again everybody in attendance today and this afternoon. Again, we know that your time is valuable and that you took that time to spend it with us on this afternoon. Again, glad you enjoyed that coffee and that nice water right there in this hot weather. Thank you very much for joining the DCBA Mediation Dispute Resolution Unit. I'm Carlos Hidalgo, mediator, and my colleague here,
Christina
Christina.
Delgado. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Have a good day, guys. Take care.